Hello, everybody, and good morning. I have a lot of serious stuff to talk to you about today. That's going to probably affect all of us. Actually, I know it's going to affect all of us. Um, the enemy has some plans, that's for sure, and I want to expose them today. I want to thank Jesus for helping me to put pieces of the puzzle together because without him, I can do nothing. And I just want to continue to pray for the knowledge of his will and all wisdom and spiritual understanding. So that way, as we move into the days that we're moving into, you know, the Lord will reveal more and more. Our God is a revealer of mysteries, and the enemy can't pull the wool over his people's eyes. And so, with that being said, I got a lot to talk about today. I'm going to start off with the small things, and we're going to work towards the greater, more intense information. So that way, people that can't handle what's going to be said later on uh, can choose to leave, and then that way they at least got some of the lighter information, and I want to warn people, you know what I'm planning to talk about today is going to scare the crap out of a lot of people. um, Unfortunately, I'm you know giving this warning so that way I don't have people yelling at me, getting mad at me later on, uh, calling me a fear monger or any of that stuff. You were warned. I told you, you know, don't shoot the messenger. All right. Just be thankful that God cares about you enough to warn you, and that there's a channel out there that's ahead of the curve enough and ahead of the game enough to point this out before it really gains a lot of traction. And it seems that like when I talk about things, it seems like all the other, channels are right after, not to say there's not some that might have noticed this, but I'm sure there'll be people that'll come out and say, well, I knew that this was coming all along, but, I haven't seen anybody talk about this yet. Um, and so, I think it's important that we address it all. Um, Give me a moment here. So, um, and again, I'm going to start with the smaller things that we're going to work up to the big threat that's emerging here. Um, there is a pro Iranian hacker group that has claimed responsibility for a major cyber attack targeting U.S. medical device manufacturer Stryker. And I'm just going to let this play here.
Fox News alert. A pro Iranian hacker group is claiming responsibility for a major cyber attack on a U.S. medical device maker, marking the first notable pro Iranian hack against U.S. infrastructure since Operation Epic Fury began. The company, Stryker, releasing a statement saying, quote, we are continuing to resolve the disruption impacting our global network resulting from the cyber attack. At this time, there is no indication of malware or ransomware, and we believe the situation is contained to our internal Microsoft environment only. Fox News alert. A pro Iranian hacker group is claiming responsibility for a major cyber attack.
You kind of get the idea, though, there that there's cyber attacks that are beginning to happen. All right. That's kind of obvious, and speaks for itself. All right. And so, with that being said, and I'm sure some people are aware of this, but the FBI has warned police departments in California with recent days that Iran may launch attack drones at West Coast targets per ABC. Iran intended to launch the drones from a vessel off the coast of the U.S. per an FBI memo, but Democrats have closed the Coast Guard along with much of the rest of DHS, they're saying, and says here, and this is a quote, we recently acquired information that as of early February 2026, Iran allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack using unmanned aerial vehicles um, from an unidentified vessel off the coast of the United States homeland, specifically against unspecified targets in California. In the event that the U.S. conducted strikes against Iran, the memo said, this is a quote, we have no additional information on the timing, method, target or perpetrators of this alleged attack. It's all real wide open, you know, and this leaves things wide open for false flags to take place. And you know, something I want to say to the public is that if attacks do begin, if there's a bunch of small ones, it's going to be Iran. If it's a few big ones, more than likely it's false flag and it's our own government doing it to ourselves. It says here Iran has been launching attack drones at major cities and neighboring counties or neighboring countries. Sorry, um, like the United Arab Emirates, including the drone seen below, which caused significant damage to a hotel. All right, so that's the kind of stuff that they would use right here if they're going to do that at any point in given time. All right, but so there's more and more of these memos coming out about sleeper cells this and sleeper cells that. All right, I think it's important that we pay close attention to that. But honestly, today it's not about the sleeper cells. There's actually something much worse coming. And like I said, I just feel like God has just given me this like download, this revelation, if you will, of like what is about to happen. And I don't think many people see this coming. But I want to continue to get through this information because it's just stuff that I think that needs to be said. And I'm not going to play the video here, but Iran's regime threatens President Trump. They will force oil to $200 per barrel. And this starts to play into what I'm going to talk about today. So they're saying, on Iran saying, not a single liter of oil will pass through the Strait of Hormuz to benefit U.S. or allies. And they're saying prepare for $200 per barrel of crude oil. So, you know, this is their Muppet puppet that they put out saying this and talking a bunch of smack. And that was released on Russian television. So that starts to play into things, and we're going to start to get closer to the information here. There are military assets that are beginning to be moved, and you can see the tanks here. Hold on one second. I want to mute this here, but you can see the tanks being transported. This could just be, you know, a normal, you know, shifting of, you know, assets and things like that. These things do happen, but just at such a time as this, you know, seeing this long of a train with this many military assets, you know, it raises questions. This was seen near Denver, Colorado. All right. And so, you know, it keeps going and going and going. Lots of military hardware on this thing. Long as long can be. Man, that train is powerful pulling all that. Thousands of tons of material. So, this is a video that I'm going to play for Americans. So that way, and the FBI just released this about a video showing people what to look for and how a terrorist or a mass shooter or whatever, someone who's about to do an act of terror, will behave before the event. And it's funny, they could have sent this out I mean, long ago. It's really weird and shady that all of a sudden we're getting all these notifications that they've had for a long time about, you know, Iran wanting to send drones into California and radio signals waking up sleeper cells, and the FBI finally releasing information on how the public can be aware of when a possible, you know, terrorist attack is beginning to take place. You know, it's really shady that all of a sudden now this has become a thing, and it's like a distraction, right? And I think I know what they're distracting us from, and I'm going to give that to you in a moment. But in case there's more terrorist attacks, because slightly, you know, we've seen these things starting to pop up, lone wolf attacks and whatnot, I thought and felt it was important to play this.
Research has proven mass shooters don't snap. They are created through a series of unfortunate life events and stressors that can build upon each other. In that process, they show signs we can look for to get them help before tragedy occurs. Now we are asking for your help by watching and listening for these signs in your community that are signaling something is wrong. Being a hero doesn't always involve running towards danger. You can be a hero by knowing signs that help us prevent danger. Look for people around you who are struggling. They may have changed in a way that makes you worried. FBI BAU research shows there are common behaviors to look for. It's the coworker who feels deeply wronged and can't let it go. It's the patient's family member who holds the hospital responsible for their loved one's pain. It's a client who is going through crisis, has withdrawn from treatment, and might be thinking about self-harm. Research shows that someone is much less likely to become a shooter if someone notices these signs and tells someone. We can all be heroes simply by noticing behavior changes, caring for our communities, and saying something when we are worried. Talk through your concerns with someone you trust and make a plan for how to help the person who is struggling. Be a hero. Know the signs. Speak up.
So here's the thing, this has got a lot of different things to unpack about it. And I don't want to get too deep into it today because what I have to say is way more important than this video. But it almost seems to me like they're setting society up for snitches. If you are a conspiracy theorist and if you are somebody that doesn't agree with the system, you can, snitch on your neighbor or whatever, and they'll put you in a mental institution is what it looks like to me. All right. Or if you just disagree, you know what I mean? Like, just there's a lot of layers to that. And yes, there's some truth to it, little hints of truth to it about how mass shooters or people that are going to commit mass acts of violence and how they behave. But there's also this inclination I can't shake that they are preparing the public to be uh to be snitched on and thrown into mental institutions. So, all right, now we're getting a little closer here. I got a couple more, and then we're gonna really start to get into the nitty gritty here. And again, not right just yet, but I have to warn you, what I'm gonna share with you is gonna shake you. Um, I don't believe that God is the author of fear. And if you're feeling fear from what I'm going to share with you in the next few moments, you need to take it to the Lord and ask Him to take that fear away, because we are sound in the Lord. Jesus is our shelter in the storm, and whatever we face next, no matter how difficult it may be, and we've seen it before, we, you know, we know that we can get through it. If God will bring you to it, He'll get you through it. All right. And so, if you're a person, and I feel that I have to say this, if you're a person that's struggling heavily right now and life is just not easy at all, you might not want to hear what's coming next here in just a couple of other news clips that I have to show. It's not going to be easy to hear. And I'm really worried about some people that are really struggling in life hearing this kind of information. But it's my job, and it's important, and I feel led by the Holy Spirit that I have got to get this information out there. So I don't want people to get shook, and things like that. So if you're feeling fear from what's going to be shared today on this channel, where the real meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about today is, you definitely, we need to take it to the Lord. And you can even email me at endtimestalk777@gmail.com. And even if you don't mind a private phone call, like if you want me to call you and just pray with you, I'll be willing to do that. But it's going to be from a private number, or like what would be a restricted number. You're not going to be able to know what phone number I'm calling from, but I'm willing to be there for people. I like I said, when the camera turns off, End Times Talk doesn't stop. Okay. And so, I need people to understand I am there for you. And you can email me here, and you can give me your phone number and say, hey, Josh, I just need you to pray with me. And I'll call and I'll pray. I really will. All right. You can bet on that. All right. All right. I'm going to be that one channel that'll step out like that. I will, because what I have to share with you today is not easy. But there's a couple more. And again, I need to say this, that, you know, a lot of people don't like Alex Jones. I get it. All right. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, but there are certain things that are talked about on his platform that aren't talked about other places. All right. And I think that sometimes there's information, the information needs to be shared, not that it's coming from him, but that there's certain key pieces of information that are important. All right. And then I definitely don't like General Mike Flynn. All right, because I think that he's, a handler for MK Ultra. I actually think General Flynn is Alex Jones's handler. I'm not going to lie, and I think Alex Jones is MK Ultra. I really do. I think Alex Jones is someone who has been a victim of MK Ultra, and I'm talking the umbrella of MK Ultra. There's many things underneath that umbrella, but all right, I want you to hear what both of these guys have to say in this moment right now, because I'm just saying the information itself I think is important.
So former DHS Acting Secretary Chad Wolf, really respected, smart guy, just told Glenn Beck today that the terror alert is the highest the United States has ever seen since it was set up for 9/11, and I totally agree, because Iran has real sleeper cells. Iran has said that they'll activate their Hezbollah cells, upwards of 18,000 men here in America alone. Now, obviously, the globalists or some fashion can trigger a false flag to try to keep us in the war with Iran that Trump's trying to get out of. That's a real issue as well. But you can't say it's a false flag right away there's an attack, because Iran has said over and over again that they're going to do this. And just came out, they were planning to use ships off our coast to launch drone attacks. And you've seen Iran responding to Israel, the U.S. attacks, attacking all over the Middle East. They're not playing games. So even when the attacks come, we're going to have to analyze it. If the attacks are massive and there's hundreds of them, that's Iranians, because they've got those numbers. If it's a false flag, it'll be a few big events like 9/11. So here's Glenn Beck talking about it. This is a big, big deal. And politically, my spider sense has never been higher about all this. And we need to be fully aware of this and analyzing who stands to gain from what comes. But the Iranians think they're about to fall, they'll block the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, already did that. And launch their sleeper cells. And 2 days ago, the White House said they got the codes where the go order went out to the sleeper cells and launched the attacks. So this is a serious situation, folks. And I agree with Glenn Beck's guess. This is the most dangerous terror time we've seen in modern U.S. history. Follow me on X, where Alex Jones. God bless. Be safe out there, and good luck.
How bad is the possible terror network here in America?
Well, it's bad, right? We talked about 4 years of the Biden administration. So over the course of 4 years, you had over 11 to 12 million individuals come into the United States, over 18,000 known or suspected terrorists, right? The National Counterterrorism Center just testified about that. Over 18,000 known or suspected terrorists tried to enter the country during Joe Biden's tenure, and a variety of them made it in. And so you combine that with the existing networks of Hamas, Hezbollah, and other proxies that have been here in the United States since the 80s, more or less, and it starts to paint a picture of a real kind of heightened risk and threat environment. Now, we have an outstanding law enforcement apparatus, FBI, Joint Terrorism Task Forces, and other things that keep the American people safe, but we're asking so much of them because we don't know who really is in the country. Because I said it at the time, and I think we're facing it right now, is the 4 years of the Biden administration, we won't really know the destructive nature of their immigration policies for years and years to come. And I think we are staring down the barrel of that right now.
So, CIA declassified documents last week, Operation Artichoke, to poison vaccines, food supply, and the water to dumb us down and make us controllable. Now new documents about ESP control, how we're really electrochemical systems, liquid crystals, and the pineal gland, and how most people...
All right, so you get what, is basically the information that was being shared there. There's a lot going on in America, and there's a lot of different angles that are coming, but there's a big thing coming that nobody's talking about. But before I get to that, I have this last bit of information from General Flynn. And I absolutely dislike this guy. But like I said, I really believe that these guys are, like some people are saying in the live chat, they're like actors, they're players, they're part of it. And the enemy has to tell you what they're going to do to you. And so I want you to understand the angle that I'm coming from before I even play a video like this. All right, actually, what we can do is not even play the video, but he's on the news and, they're talking about this. Sleeper cells operating inside the United States. Right now, U.S. intelligence is tracking encrypted Iranian communications, and law enforcement has been alerted to potential sleeper cell activity on our soil. These networks were not built overnight. They were pre-positioned, patient, and waiting for exactly this kind of moment. Every cop on a beat, every sheriff and their deputies, every federal agent needs to be heads up and fully supported. These are the men and women standing between a coordinated attack and the communities they protect. Congress needs to stop playing politics and with the DHS funding and all that stuff. So, but here's the thing. So, for those of you who, and I'm not going to get into it today, for those of you who have been a part of my channel for a long time, you guys remember the Jade Dream and all that stuff, and where there's these guys that were, in black tactical gear, and it wasn't the army, it was the sheriffs and the state troopers and the city police that were, talking about and standing up against, sorry, not talking about, that were standing up against these invaders that were in black tactical gear that were trying to do harm to U.S. citizens. I just I find it kind of funny, and I knew that the people in the black tactical gear were foreigners from another country. They weren't from America, right? Okay, so anyway, just putting that out there. This is pretty crazy. Give me a second here. This is pretty crazy here. Report multiple senior and this is where we start to get into it. There's something behind this. Something big is coming, people. Something really big. This is it, folks. If things don't turn around, you can expect what I'm about to talk about to be the situation that's going to pop off. But it says here, multiple senior Trump administration officials are quietly moving, and they've been doing this, but there's more, are moving into fortified military housing around Washington, D.C., and the timing is raising serious questions because there's something big coming, and I'm going to reveal that today. The shift comes as geopolitical tensions rise and speculation grows that the U.S. government may be preparing for scenarios far bigger than officials are publicly acknowledging. And oh yeah, there's a scenario that's really big that's coming. And it's one I've been talking about for a long time, just a different angle, right? According to reports, Attorney General Pam Bondi recently relocated to a military base after federal law enforcement. This is recently after federal law enforcement flagged a surge of threats tied to cartel activity and backlash over the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. She is not alone. Other high-ranking officials, including Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, and several top defense leaders have also reportedly moved into secured military housing in or near the nation's capital. At the same time, a National Guard Rapid Response Force has been activated in Washington, D.C., with the ability to deploy within 24 hours. They're going to need that after I tell you what I'm about to tell you, to respond to civil disturbances. Oh, just wait what I'm about to tell you. It's going to get crazy, folks. And barely anybody saw this coming. Barely anybody saw it coming. There's a few. All right. I'm sure there are people that'll try to take credit. Oh, yeah, I saw it a long time ago. I saw it a year ago. I saw it 2 years ago, man. No, I'm sorry. There wasn't a bunch of people that caught this thing. And once it comes out, people ride that bandwagon. But it says right here, meanwhile, renewed media coverage about automatic draft registration and potential troop deployments is fueling speculation about what may be coming next. Precaution or preparation? I think absolutely preparation for what we're about to talk about. Now, the governments across the world, all right, here we go. All right, here we go. We're getting somewhere now. Now we're getting to the nitty gritty. And you can just kind of kick back, and I got nothing left to show you, but I have everything left to tell you and go over. All right, because this is the big enchilada here is where we're getting to it. And if you got stuff you got to do around the house, you can just listen now, and you don't have to be watching anything. But pay close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because this is insane. Governments across the world are suddenly reviving policies that look eerily familiar. Remote work mandates. I had someone, and I've been given permission, all right, to tell you all this. All right, I've been given permission, okay, to tell you that I know a woman that works at a specific VA, okay, and they are forcing all of them into work mandates from home. All right, she works at a VA, and I was told this 2 weeks ago. All right, but I didn't know what to make of it. Now I know what to make of it. Now I know how to warn people, and I'm going to play a video at the end of this live that's going to blow your minds away in light of this thing. And there's a reason Trump's enacting all these executive orders and the Department of Defense initiatives and all this stuff. Now it's going to make sense. All right, but they're saying that there's remote work mandates coming back into place, and travel discouragement, and they're fueling they're doing things to fuel rationing, all triggered by rapidly escalating global energy crisis. Oh wait, just hear this. All right, and this time it's not COVID-19 driving the restrictions, it's oil. All right, and notice how they're blowing up all the oil refineries. Boom, 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 boom. This place has oil storage. Blow it up. This place is refining oil. Blow it up. Iran's doing it. The U.S. is doing it. Israel's doing it. The UAE's doing it. Saudi Arabia's doing it. Everybody that's involved is going after the oil. Why? Because there is a new world order coming. I'm telling you, folks, and we're going to expose it here today. As war in the Middle East disrupts fuel supplies and sends prices swinging, governments from Southeast Asia to Europe are scrambling to conserve energy. Thailand and Vietnam are already urging their public employees to work from home. Oh, and it's coming. I just told you, people from the VA in America are being encouraged to work from home. And the information, like what I was told is, hold on, let me try to find the email, because I want to shoot it to you straight, because this person told me that I could use this live. Hold on one second. All right, I think this is it. Okay, so this is what I was told. This person says, I sent you an email a few months ago about keeping you posted on the VA side of things. All right, this person says, I work in a primary care setting. They said they've never cleared any of us to work from home. Listen, folks, pay attention. All the signs are coming into play. They're all pointing towards this. We're getting there. I'm going to make complete sense out of this today. A few weeks ago, my supervisor told us it had been approved for us to be able to work from home. And this person, when they got a hold of me, they thought it was over like a sickness, virus type of thing. All right, listen. All right, they were approved to work from home as a contingency plan in case of clinic closures. This person's supervisor said that they had been at the VA for 10 years and have never had this opportunity. They keep sending, pay close attention. They keep sending the employees reminder emails to get all paperwork filled out in order to get this done as soon as possible. I believe that this has all been planned from the ground up, what I'm about to explain to you. All right, and I'm telling you, this is scary stuff. Like, this is no joke. All right, now, in Vietnam's capital, Hanoi, officials are even encouraging residents to ditch their cars entirely, recommending public transit, cycling, and carpooling as fuel costs surge and petrol stations shorten hours. But the trend is spreading far beyond Southeast Asia. Pakistan is shifting large portions of its workforce to remote work, just like in the U.S. at the VA, reducing office staffing to roughly half capacity and introducing 4-day work weeks in some departments. Schools and universities are moving online to cut commuting and conserve fuel. All right. The Philippines is rolling out similar measures, including 4-day work weeks in executive offices and expanded remote work across both public and private sectors to lower fuel consumption. Now, hold on, I'm getting a drink. Bangladesh has already closed universities to conserve electricity. Oh man, just wait, dude. This isn't even the half of it. All right, and transportation fuel, while Myanmar has begun rationing fuel by forcing half the country's private vehicles off the roads each day based on license plate numbers. License plate numbers. And remember now how they can just kind of shut your car down now with the newer cars? Oh, that's going to bite people in the butt. Just wait. Meanwhile, in the UK, motorists are being advised to drive less, while authorities in India have invoked emergency powers to ration LPG supplies for restaurants and businesses. In Australia, the crisis is already hitting the ground. Farmers report empty diesel tanks, stalled machinery, and canceled deliveries, while some petrol stations are limiting customers to just $20 of fuel as panic buying spreads. If energy shortages deepen, these early conservation measures could quickly evolve into something far more restrictive. The question now is obvious. Are we watching the first phase of global energy lockdowns? An energy lockdown is a set of government-mandated restrictions designed to drastically reduce energy consumption during acute shortages or crises, preventing total collapse of power grids, fuel supplies, or broader energy systems. It draws parallels to the mobility and economic restrictions seen during the COVID-19 pandemic. Are you hearing me, everybody? Are you hearing me? It's exactly what I've been trying to tell you. All right? It's exactly what I've been trying to tell you on this channel. Time and time again, this channel has been ahead of the curve. All right? Ahead of the curve. But it says here, but energy lockdowns focus on curbing electricity, fuel, and gas usage across households. Oh, wait, I got a video for you I hope you got your crapping pants on, because you're going to crap your pants when you see this after we're done talking. All right. And gas usage across households, industries, transportation, and public services. The term has gained traction in discussions around geopolitical conflicts, all right, like disruptions from the ongoing U.S.-Iran tensions, extreme weather, policy-driven transitions away from fossil fuels, of course, or supply chain failures. I'm telling you, this is about to impact everything. All right. They are going to, just like an Atlas Shrugged, like I've been telling you, they are going to stop the motor of the world. What does the motor of the world take? Oil. Where demand outstrips available resources, unlike traditional energy rationing from historical events like in the 1970s oil crisis, modern energy lockdowns incorporate digital monitoring, carbon credit systems, or AI-driven allocation to enforce compliance. This is why they have the data centers. This is why the 5G towers. They have been in this for the long haul, everybody. All right, this is often framed as temporary, but potentially becoming normalized for recurring stresses like infrastructure gaps or renewable energy intermittency. All right, in practice, an energy lockdown manifests as a layered set of measures that disrupt daily life, similar to how COVID lockdown shifted. We all talked about it was the script. We all talked about how it was, the preemptive, thing that's going to teach people how to step in line. Oh man, this is it right here. This is it right here. All right. I mean, excuse my language, but everybody needs to kiss their ass goodbye. This thing is it. This is happening. All right. And social patterns, but without focus on energy conservation. But with a focus on energy conservation. It typically starts with public alerts. Oh, just wait. They're going to come. And escalates based on severity. Everyday impacts include, here we go, transportation and mobility restrictions. Does this sound like Agenda 2030 to you? I told you something big was coming that was going to take us to Agenda 2030. I warned you it was going to happen. All right? I warned you it was going to happen. I told you something big is coming that's going to take us into this mode of Agenda 2030, the complete tyranny of it. All right. And they're going to limit vehicle use such as odd, even. So they're literally going to use license plate rules for fueling. All right. So people are going to have to carpool to work, and whoever's license plate is okay at the time, those are the ones that get fuel and get to move about. All right. Bans on non-essential travel or caps on gasoline, diesel purchases per day, so /week. In some scenarios, private vehicles are restricted entirely for periods, pushing reliance on public transport or remote activities, so working from home. Electric vehicle charging might be scheduled or prioritized for essentials. Even your electricity is going to be affected by this thing. Oh, just wait, there's more. Household and commercial conservation mandates, reduced operating hours for businesses, schools, and offices, mandatory remote work or closures for non-critical sectors to cut commuting and building energy use. Households face guidelines like thermostat limits, no heating above 68 Fahrenheit or cooling below 78 degrees Fahrenheit is what they're saying. Timed appliance usage or bans on high energy devices during peak hours, like your AC, all right, your air conditioning. Public buildings might dim lights or shut down non-essential systems. Oh, man, this is complete tyranny, everybody. Complete tyranny, all right? I'm telling you, folks. I'm telling you, it's coming. It's coming. Nobody's talking about it. We're ahead of the curve here. The reason being is because I've been praying. I've been seeking God's face on this stuff for a long time. And dude, I just had like this major revelation last night. I'm like, this is what they're doing. This is what's happening. This is what they're doing. And everything else is a distraction. They might have false flag attacks or have real terrorists doing stuff and getting busy in the streets. But this is the real meat and potatoes of what they want to get done, because it brings about Agenda 2030 and their control for 17 sustainable goals and their plans for development. I'm telling you, folks, this is it. All right. Power and fuel rationing. Scheduled rolling blackouts. You know what that is? Scheduled rolling blackouts where electricity is cut in rotations to balance the grid, and they're doing it in other countries already, or fuel allocation via apps or cards tied to carbon credits or needs-based allowances, priority for healthcare workers or delivery services. This could lead to long queues at gas stations, price surges for non-ration supplies, or incentives for conservation like rebates. Industrial and economical adjustments. Factories and energy-intensive industries like manufacturing or data centers may face mandatory curtailments. Data centers ain't going to be curtailed. I promise you that. They're going to be at full tilt boogie, man. I'm telling you. Shifting to off-peak operations or shutdowns. This slows production, or the motor of the world, like they say in Atlas Shrugged, in those 3 movies I've been telling you about, telling you that are the Illuminati's plan. I'm telling you, this is the Illuminati plan. This is it. This is how they do it. This is how they implement digital currency. This is how they implement Agenda 2030. This is how they implement carbon credits. This is how they implement a digital ID. All right. This is how they implement all of this tyranny that's coming. All right. So, but it says here they want to raise costs for goods and trigger inflation in food transport due to supply chain ripple effects. And here we go. Here we go. And this is why they have to have a force in Washington, D.C. that moves into place in 24 hours if the public gets out of line. This is why they're running to military bases all over the place to live on them, because there's going to be monitoring and enforcement, digital tools that track usage via smart meters with fines for violations. Public messaging campaigns urge voluntary cuts, while emergency declarations waive regulations. All right, like trucker hours of service limits to boost supply deliveries in regions like Asia amid recent shortages. This has included alternative production schedules and restricted gasoline distribution. All right, this is absolutely like, You know, they're going to monitor you. They're going to monitor what you're doing. They're going to use your smart meter on your house. This is why they even gave it to you, the smart meter on your house. All right. I'm telling you, this is where the rubber meets the road, everybody. This is what they're doing. It's going to be an energy lockdown. It ain't going to be a COVID lockdown. That was the distraction. But I knew there was a lockdown coming because they have to have it in place for Agenda 2030. I told you it's not about the method of delivery. It's about the end game. What have I always told you? It's about the end game. This is their end game. All right. Overall, it resembles a low power mode for society, dimmer streets, quieter factories, more homebound routines. You see how they sell it to you? You see how they sell it to you? The strictness will escalate with the crisis severity. Oh, we're not even there yet. Just wait. Give it till summer. Mark my words. Often tiered by impact, as outlined in U.S. Department of Energy frameworks. Mild versions emphasize voluntary actions, but extreme cases impose draconian controls, prioritizing lifelines like hospitals and emergency services, water systems over general use. Oh my gosh. This is crazy, dude. Just wait. We're getting into it more. I got to get another drink. Hold on. They have it mapped out. They have it mapped out into 3 tiers. There's mild, moderate, and severe. All right, mild, tier 3. The description is localized shortages or imbalances, short-term disruptions under 48 hours, and the focus on prevention. The strict measures that they'll take: voluntary conservation alerts, like to reduce your air conditioner usage, minor price hikes, localized fuel delivery delays, and there's not going to be that much widespread enforcement, just more localized. And things that could cause this, examples are like heat waves, driving high demand, early stages of supply disruptions like pipeline maintenance, or, the Straits of Hormuz being shut down, 20% of the world's oil, which I think it's actually more. I mean, they say 20%, but I think it's more. All right. The moderate to significant tier, which is tier number 2, which is widespread issues lasting days or weeks, all right, which are sharp declines in inventories or grid stability, and it brings in state level development. So when they take us to tier 2, your state will take control. Mandatory remote work for non-essentials. So if you're essential, you can go out and work. But if you're non-essential, you're going to be working from home. All right. Business hour reductions, emergency conservation mandates with fines, temporary waivers for fuel transport to ease logistics, fuel runouts at stations, and bans on non-essential activities like team building events. All right. And I mean, people are already posting about this stuff, like kind of getting into it, like people in the government and all this stuff. And this is straight from energy.gov. The Midwest propane shortage in 2014, the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack in 2021, leading to delivery delays and conservation urges. That's kind of like an example. All right. But just like the Straits of Hormuz being shut down, which is 20% of the world's oil, is way worse than 2014 or 2021. Okay. And then so tier number 1, which is severe and major event, which is listen, here we go. All right. Because the first one is days and weeks for tier 2. Now we're in more than a week, week plus is what it says. So like into a month. If this goes on for a month, all right, this is where this could go. Total inaccessibility for most users, threats to public safety and economy, and multiple agency response. All right, the strict measures that will be in place are enforced rolling blackouts or grid curtailments, strict fuel rationing. All right, and remember how I told you just the other day about energy crises, where, in Atlas Shrugged, how when these people went out, it cost them like hundreds of dollars to fill their gas tank in the movie Atlas Shrugged. Okay, I'm telling you, this is it. All right. Strict fuel rationing, like need-based allowances via carbon credits, 4 times the prices for excess. So they're going to overcharge you when you need more. full shutdowns of industries, relocation of vulnerable populations to shelters with backup power. There's your FEMA camps that they're already building. I've already shown you. Hold on, I'll even show you again. Give me a moment here. I'll show you again. Give me a moment. I'm trying to find it. Goodness gracious. Yeah, right here. They're already planning to build detention centers along the train tracks where you see the red dots, all right, is where they're building new detention centers, and how big the circle is how much capacity they have. And it's all near the train tracks because they're going to ration energy. It's all making sense now and all falling into place. Okay? So, again, relocation of vulnerable populations to shelters with backup power, bans on private vehicle use or high energy consumption. They're saying no red meat production. All right, no red meat production. So you'll eat the bugs. Okay. Emergency orders become routine, suspending normal rules for months, or indefinitely. And this all plays into Agenda 2030's, 17 sustainable goals for development. These lockdowns mimic scenarios like COVID-19 restrictions, which temporarily slashed global energy demand by up to 6% in 2020, highlighting opportunities for lower carbon systems. Agenda 2030 proponents suggest using such disruptions to reset toward renewables, as seen in post-pandemic recovery plans prioritizing green investments to meet 2030 targets by curbing high-demand activities, industrial shutdowns or travel limits. Lockdowns accelerate efficiency gains, aligning with the Sustainable Development Goals number 7's call to cut emissions by 43% by the year 2030. And here we go. Here we go. I don't think people are prepared for what's about to happen. I think everybody is, living in la la land. You know what I'm saying? While people could have been preparing, they just kept going to channels that made them feel good. This isn't a feel good channel, but I want to be real with you. And there's a reason why I did the video yesterday that I did. God literally said, Josh, I want you to do a video that's encouraging. That was yesterday. And I said, he said, I want you to talk about what heaven and earth are going to be like after the pre-tribulation rapture, what his millennial kingdom is going to be like, what we have to look forward to. And now it all makes sense, because right after that, God gives me like this download to start looking into this. And I started looking into it, and I'm like, oh my Lord, it's happening. They're doing this. It all makes sense. All of Trump's executive orders, all the Department of Defense initiatives, all this terrorist mumbo jumbo they'll use during this major event to lock us down even more. And the terrorists will take advantage of this to attack even more. While we're being limited on energy and there's rolling blackouts, the terrorists will strike. All right. And I mean, like, this all starts to play into it. All right. And even, they could even use a tax, to hold energy lockdowns and declare martial law within this whole system and really clamp down hard to weed out the terrorists. They're really going to do this. This is really happening. I can't believe it. And no, Trump is not the Antichrist. He can't be the Antichrist, but he's working for him. I'll tell you that much. I promise you that. Transition acceleration in scenarios like geopolitical conflicts or supply shocks. Energy lockdowns help bridge gaps to renewables. The IEA projects a transformed energy landscape by 2030 under current policies, with clean tech playing a larger role, but warns of off-track progress with aggressive measures. Lockdowns could enforce this by rationing rationing fossil fuels and pushing adoption of solar, wind, or nuclear, echoed in the IAEA reports on nuclear's role in net zero goals. Or global collaboration and financing. Agenda 2030 emphasizes partnerships and the 17 sustainable goals for development for tech transfer and funding clean energy in developing nations. Energy lockdowns in wealthier countries like America. Remember, the American, or it says Western values will be tested to the breaking point. Remember that? Remember I told you, right? I've been telling you, and all the people that thought I was crazy and that thought I was making crap up, right? All right, I'm telling you, and I'm not going to be that person that says I told you so. I won't do it. But it really sucks when people don't believe you, when you see something coming and you just don't know how it's going to emerge, but you know it's going to happen. You know the Illuminati's plans, been trying to tell people, and just everybody just treated me like crap. You know? It's whatever. I forgive you. It's okay. I get it. You're scared. All right. It says here, energy lockdowns in wealthier countries could free up resources or create urgency for international aid, as seen in calls for $21.6 billion in flows to emerging economies in 2023. This ties into broader synergies where NDCs under the Paris Agreement linked to Agenda 2030 overlap with the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, on energy, agriculture, and water. So this is happening. This is happening, everybody. Like it's obvious. It's obvious as obvious can be. Hold on, I'm not done yet. Listen to me, folks. Listen to me. For those of you who are bootlickers, listen up. Executive Order 14156 declaring a national energy emergency that was put into place by Donald Trump on January 20th, 2025, when he first came into office, is issued on Inauguration Day under the National Emergencies Act, declares a national emergency due to insufficient energy production, transportation, refining, and generation. This has been planned from the very beginning of his presidency, what he's doing right now, posing threats to national security, economy, and foreign policy. It directs agencies to use emergency authorities to accelerate domestic energy projects, leasing on federal lands, fuel waivers for gasoline shortages. While it doesn't mention lockdowns, it cites shortages as the basis for emergency powers. So as soon as this starts to really kick off, you're going to have Executive Order 14156 put into place, which could include rationing under FPA or other statutes if production ramps fail. Okay, and I could even show you a PDF, but I'm not going to do it. Then there's the continuation of the national emergency with respect to energy on January 14th, 2026. This notice extends the 2025 declaration beyond January 2026, reaffirming shortages as an unusual and extraordinary threat. It implies ongoing risks of energy inadequacy, potentially necessitating restrictions like blackouts or fuel limits if unaddressed, through the policy prioritizes production boosts. So they already have it set up, okay, for blackouts and for fuel shortages and for them to ration fuel and tell you, you can't do this and you can't do that. I guarantee you're going to have your PayPal, sir, and you will eat the bugs. Guaranteed. They're working us towards it. Executive Order 14154, Unleashing American Energy, on January 20th, 2025 is when this was enacted. Issued alongside the emergency declaration, this executive order promotes energy dominance by directing agencies to remove illegitimate impediments to fossil fuels, nuclear, and critical minerals. It acknowledges precarious supply and unreliable grids as emergency drivers, but focuses on deregulation rather than demand curves. However, it references potential use of the Defense Production Act for eminent domain if needed, highlighting shortage severity that could pivot to rationing. Rationing is what that's all about. The Department of Energy ordered number 202-2616 on February 17th, 2026, which was just a month ago, under the FPA Section 202 C, this order mandates continued operation of the J.H. Campbell Generating Plant, a coal-fired facility in Michigan, through May 18th, 2026, due to shortages in the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator region, including year-round resource adequacy concerns from retirements, high demand, and low renewable output. It cites NERC assessments of tight reserve margins, applying risks of rolling blackouts, a form of lockdown without intervention. This builds on prior 2025 executive orders extending the plant's life. Department of Energy Order number 202-25-14 on December 30th, 2025. Similarly, this FPA order requires the Craig Generating Station, which is coal-fired. And see, it's all from coal. It's all coal. That's why, who was it? George Soros that bought up a bunch of coal. I wonder if this has all been planned. To operate through March 30th, 2026, amid shortages in the Western Electricity Coordinating Council, Northwest area from baseload retirements, variable renewables, and demand growth, all right, like data centers. It notes energy variability and supply chain issues, suggesting potential for emergency restrictions if such orders aren't sufficient. Department of the Interior Secretary's Order 3417 on February 3rd, 2025, implementing Executive Order 14156. This order directs the Department of Interior to use emergency authorities for energy leasing and development on federal lands, citing precariously inadequate and intermittent energy supply as the emergency basis. All right? It doesn't discuss lockdowns, but frames shortages as necessitating swift action to avoid broader crises. Executive order on protecting American energy from state overreach. Interesting. Target state laws restricting energy development, including those on emissions, to prevent burdens that could exacerbate shortages. Then there's the proclamation on regulatory relief for certain stationary sources on July 27, 2025, exempts coal plants from certain emissions rules temporarily, emphasizing their role in averting generation shortages. The IRS notice on clean energy credits on August 20th, 2025, enforces terminations for wind solar incentives post 2027, aligning with efforts to shift from unreliable sources amid emergency concerns. These documents collectively indicate government recognition of energy shortages that are already taking place, but they're about to get worse. From plant retirements, and they shut down a bunch of energy plants in Michigan. There's a whole bunch of water dams and things like that that were energy dams that they're selling off for like $1. It's weird. All right. For rationing or curtailments under the FPA or NEA. These documents collectively indicate government recognition of energy shortages from plant retirement, supply variability, and demand surges, invoking emergency frameworks that historically allow for rationing or curtailments under the FPA or NEA. For instance, the Department of Energy's 2025 Resource Adequacy Report, referenced in the orders that I've already showed you, projects significant loss of load risks by 2030. Without interventions, potentially leading to blackouts if production-focused policies fail. Due to legal challenges or delays, lockdowns could emerge as a fallback, similar to historical oil crises. However, the administration's stance is explicitly against restrictions favoring unleashing supply. Yeah, that's why he's unleashed the oil reserves and things like that, to help Americans out right now during the war that he started. I mean, need I say anything more? Need I say anything more? Now, with all that being said, I want you to watch this and you tell me what your future is going to look like.
New regulations from states. All cars will be required to have advanced climate control systems.
Thank you.
How did we get here?
Good morning, California. We are experiencing another wave of brownouts as concerns grow over China's new coal power plant. Citizens are urged to do their part and remember our responsibility to Earth.
At first, I wanted to do what I could. Be a team player. Okay, you got 2 minutes of hot water. Think you can be quick? Ready, set, go! They told us it wouldn't last long, and that we were in this together.
Dad?
Yeah?
Do you think we'll be able to fly out to Grandma's for Christmas this year?
Yeah, maybe. But probably just have to FaceTime her.
Okay.
There are still echoes of the world I remember, but they feel distant, like memories from another life.
You gotta ration the AC here. Gotta have your little fan that's boiling hot. They're making the planet
Mr.
hotter
Williams,
with their chemtrails.
in preparation for your meeting with the chairman this evening, I think it would be wise to set a good example. We wouldn't want to miss hitting our ESG score before your big evening now, would we?
Here's your crickets. There's your crickets right there. Your container of bugs. Look at that.
They say, in order to serve the greater good, we need to make more sacrifices.
Okay. Let me just say a few words, if I may. We need to say thank you to Chadwick for almost securing something.
Of course, David, I hear great things about you. I'm sure they're just words. They don't mean anything. I'm kidding, of course. And Jessica, thank you. Pearl,
But when I look around, the we that does the sacrificing isn't them. It's us.
Dinner was nice. If we cut back on emissions, maybe we could do something like that for your birthday?
Thank you.
Yeah. Sure you're okay biking home?
Oh yeah, my score's gone way up since I stopped driving.
Updated federal mandates are going to be published later this month, and employers are scrambling to keep up. So later tonight, we'll discuss those new...
I live in a world that is constantly giving me feedback.
Especially your home AC usage, as fears of brownouts are still...
And I want to leave it better for him. But most days, I'm just left wondering, how did we get here?
Power allowance depleted.
There's always been a small piece of me that's believed that the rapture has to happen during a lockdown because they want to be able to hide the fact that it happened. And if it gets out, then they'll use the alien agenda, false flag alien agenda to say that they took us off the planet. I'm a firm believer in a pre-tribulation rapture, and I believe that Jesus is coming soon, but I also believe in praying for the best, but preparing for the worst. And today I share this information with you because I think it's super important that we prepare for the worst. All right, we don't know how much of this we're going to see, but it's obvious what's brewing right now. It's obvious we're in World War III. And I've talked to you what World War III is from the Pike letters. I've everything I've shown you has the receipts. I've come bearing receipts and connecting dots that I don't see anybody else connecting right now. And it's always ahead of the curve, and I always look crazy, and I always look like I'm, off my rocker. And I'm passionate about what I speak about. That's why I get a little yelly, because I get kind of cocky. Like I'm just like, I can't believe they're doing this. Like they're really going to do this. They're really going to work on stopping the motor of the world, like they talk about in Atlas Shrugged. And I never thought I'd see these days. When I was a young lad and I was starting to learn about eschatology and the end times and biblical prophecy and conspiracies and all that stuff. But man, it's like a freight train that you can't stop right now. And Jesus said all these things were going to come. Distress of nations with perplexities. And if you have fear over this situation, fear isn't of God. So if it's coming, if it's happening to you, and you're dealing with fear over this, the Lord will help you with that if you lean into him. I'm not fearful at all over this thing. I feel like I've seen this coming for a long time, just not exactly this format, but I knew a lockdown was coming. I knew it was going to happen. And I'm sure at some point they'll release some sickness to depopulate. And the credibility of this channel will go up and up and up while everybody else hyper focused on the Russia-Ukraine war and saying nukes are going to fall. This is what they were preparing the whole entire time. And it all begins to make sense. Like I said, all of Trump's executive orders and Department of Defense initiatives and all the elite running to coal. I thought to myself, well, that's odd that they ran to coal. And then it reminded me of Atlas Shrugged. It's like, they all have known this for a long time, that this was the plan. Trump's just a puppet doing what he's told. And people get so angry when you say that, because they're putting their hope in man. Man is going to fail you every time. Jesus is the only one that will never fail you. I've been through a lot of hardships in my life, and always leaning into Jesus is helped me, strengthened me, quickened my spirit, and given me energy to keep moving on. And I'll be honest with you, I feel a peace in Jesus that I can't get anywhere else. The whole world hates him, the whole world bashes him, and if the whole world is so corrupt the way it is, I want more of Jesus and I want less of the world. But it's my duty to inform people when you see the enemy approaching the gates, when you're a watchman and you're on the wall and you're looking out for your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, and you see something happening, to call it out and to sound the alarm, so that way people have a moment of time where they can breathe. You've been given the information. It's all here. It's all here. Everything that's coming, it's all here. I think I put it together pretty well to prove to people that this is what is obviously going on. And, they're shutting down the Straits of Hormuz. They already said they are. There's already like 90, I think they said 95% of shipping that's been halted that isn't going through the Straits of Hormuz. And I think that them blowing up the oil refineries and things like that, it's all a part of it. Setting oil fields on fire, it's all a part of it. They're all in on it, every nation, every tongue. every tribe, they're all in on it. Jesus told us it was going to get rough. He says, behold, I have told you before. And man, we can't say we didn't know. And there'll be people that'll deny the facts. There'll be people that see this today and say I'm off my rocker, and there'll be people that get upset and I have to unsubscribe. That's okay. You'll be back. You'll be back because you realize that all the other places all over YouTube that are selling you hopium, that are giving you false hope, are lying to you. And it's hard to hear the truth. It is. It's really difficult. I get it. I totally get it. But I thought it was important to put this out there today, and it was of the utmost importance that this gets put out because time is really short, especially, with all of this crisis that's emerging, and there's even the Illuminati card game that talks about energy crisis. A crippling energy shortage affects power blocks worldwide. Worldwide. It's all there. It's all there. And you can go fill up however many barrels of gas you want and things like that. It ain't going to stop what's coming. There's not enough, food and all this stuff in the world that's going to stop this from coming. And it's obviously right at the doorstep. So, I think it's important to prepare, but don't overdo it. Don't live in panic. Don't panic buy. Rely on God. Grow a garden. I wasn't going to grow too much of a garden this year, and I'm kind of thinking maybe I should. Maybe I should grow a little bit more of a garden than what I was previously going to. But I think that, God will put on your heart what he wants you to do, how he wants you to do it, and whatever's next. I can't tell you what this is going to look like on the other side of this thing. But I do know that Jesus is coming soon for his people, and I'm not going to worry, and I'm not going to fear, and I'm not going to have anxiety about this whole thing. I mean, I've been in this for a long time, and maybe for a person like me, it's easier because I've been preparing myself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, that this was going to be the case, So it's no shock to me, but there's some people today here that are going to be shocked, that are going to be resistant to the truth, that are going to be resistant to the facts, and they're going to say, this and that. They're going to have some kind of argument, and they're going to try to counter, and they're going to try to think that their comment means something, And if you're not productive, just don't even bother commenting it. I'm just going to delete it because I don't care to hear what you have to say if you're going to be a negative Nancy. I had, yesterday, or the day before yesterday, my grandma's basement flooded and lost a whole bunch of, my mother's stuff. And I don't know how extensive the damage is. It's yet to be seen, but, I had put on there that, and asked people to pray that the water levels in the basement go down, and that God dries it out, quickly. And he did, the water levels completely gone. And I'm going to believe that God's going to supernaturally dry that stuff out and that everything's going to be okay. But I was just absolutely heartbroken over it because my mother was someone who meant a lot to me. She took on both roles. I didn't have a dad, and my mother taught me about Jesus. I would not be the believer in Jesus that I am today had she not sowed the seed that she sowed into my life and literally given up everything to make sure that I was okay. And, instead of people, I got real bitter. Like instead of people praying and whatnot, there's a whole bunch of people that attacked me and just told me basically, oh, they're just worldly possessions. Focus more on God and all that stuff. And that tells me you think I'm not focusing on God. And that tells me you think I'm materialistic. And that tells me that you think I'm holding on to the world. You couldn't be more wrong. All right. You couldn't be more wrong. I can't wait to let go of all of this. But here's the thing. if I got to be here, it sure be nice to have some of my mother's stuff and go through it one day and all of a sudden have this epiphany like, oh, wow, this brings back good memories, something to trigger a memory or two. You know, I've already gone through some of that stuff, thank God, but there was more that I had to go through. I just couldn't go through it all at once. But instead of people praying for a brother, they kind of casted stones. You know what I'm saying? And I called them out, and I told them all, you guys, there's about 6 or 7 of you. You guys suck. You guys suck. You really do. And you can go kick rocks. You know, I forgive you, but you know, I don't really care what you have to say about me. And the same people that want to bash me for exposing this stuff and say I'm a fear monger, you can kick rocks too. You can kick rocks too. I don't care what you have to say. And it's okay for me to express my emotions. It's my channel. I had some ignorant jerk, you know, earlier today, you know, tell me, well, why would you put this stuff out there? Why would you talk about your emotions and you're just feeding the enemy? I'm not feeding the enemy nothing. I have a voice and I have a right to speak my mind. It's my channel. All right. I'm not triggered by anybody. I just want to let people know they're being jerks. That's all. That's it. Plain and simple. All right. And so, you know, I kind of wanted to address that a little bit at the end of the live here. But you guys that watch this channel because you actually despise me more than anything, you know, you guys don't know me from Adam. You don't know me. You act like you know me. You think watching my channel lets you know who I am and what I go through and all that stuff. You don't know a darn thing about me. And your opinion doesn't matter at all to me. In reality, because most of you can't comment anymore because you're blocked. That's how much it doesn't matter to me. And I move on. But when it comes to my mother, you know, just like if someone was to bash Jesus in front of me, I'd get uppity about it. I'm not that type of Christian to turn my cheek. I'm sorry, Jesus. I'm sorry I don't turn my cheek enough, Lord. Please forgive me, God. But I'll tell you what, I'll smack someone in the face. Just assume it, you know, as soon as turn my cheek because if they're bashing Jesus. I'm so sick of people bashing Jesus. You know, Jesus it means so much to me. The Heavenly Father means so much to me that I'd even fight to defend him. I would. And I'm sorry that I'm flawed in saying that. I'm sorry that I'm in the flesh when I say that. But you know, when it comes to my mom too, I feel the same way. You know, I would defend her honor tooth and nail. So you know, uh, those people that want to talk smack, you suck. So I'm putting that out there. But anyways, for the rest of you who are kind, loving, caring, and are here to learn something, I appreciate you guys so much. You have no idea. You know, all the subscribers, all the viewers, all the moderators, you don't even got to subscribe, and I care about you. You just come here, dude, and just take part, even if you don't comment. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? I really do. And my moderators, you know, you guys are help me out so much. I don't have to worry about the live chat or worry about what's being said. I can just kind of focus on the information, and it helps me be able to really relay the information so much, you know. And I'm just so thankful that I have good moderators. I have an awesome audience, and I got awesome brothers and sisters in Christ here. And I think it's really good fellowship. I really do. But you know, for those people that are toxic, you know, you don't got to stay. You can go get fed your hopium, you know, elsewhere. You can go get lied to elsewhere. You can go stick your head in the sand. Go do what you do. Go do that. You know what I'm saying? For real. Like go do that. Like do me a favor and leave my channel. I don't need your subscription. I don't get paid for this. I'm not monetized. I don't get paid for your subscription or paid for your view or paid that you comment. Plain and simple. So I'm just putting that out there at the end of this video. So with that being said, for those of you, and I'll be honest with you, I forgive my enemies, but I ain't gonna tolerate no mumbo jumbo. I'm not gonna tolerate no mumbo jumbo. So, anyways, with that being said, I appreciate all of you for coming today, and I'm sorry it's a little nitty gritty today, and this is probably one of the most intense things I've probably ever had to talk about on this channel. Actually, there's intense things all the time, but it's like it's really happening. It's really like it seems like it's emerging quickly, you know, exactly what I talked about today. And I really hope people, you know, like will take this and download it, you know, and file it away, you know, because I think it's going to stand the test of time. You know, I really do. So please be safe out there, you know, and I pray in Jesus' name for your families, even for my enemies. I pray that my enemies' hearts will be softened, and that they'll realize that they need you, Jesus, more and more, and that not everybody cares about their opinion when it's negative. Also, Jesus, I pray for peace and protection for all of the people that watch my channel. I pray for their families. I especially pray for their children, Lord. Keep them safe in the days ahead. And I pray for your jobs, that whatever's coming doesn't affect your work, doesn't affect your income. I pray that God will keep you afloat in the things that are emerging right now and that are ahead of us. I pray, Jesus, that you be our shelter in the storm, Lord, and that your Holy Spirit will just surround your people, Lord, and just anoint them, and that they feel your tangible presence, Holy Spirit, and that, Jesus, you would cover my brothers and my sisters in Christ with your blood from the top of their head to the soles of their feet. And I just pray for their homes, pray for their job place. I pray for the schools their children go to, and even the houses of the friends that their children are friends with. That you protect everything, or just blanket their situation. That when they walk into a store, that store is protected while they're there, because they're there, Lord. I pray, Jesus, that you just, no matter even where they drive or wherever they walk or wherever they ride their bike or wherever they fly or whatever train they're riding, that God, you just be with them and watch over them and keep them safe in the days ahead. And I just pray a peace that surpasses all understanding, that even in such a turbulent time as this, God, that you're in control. You know what I mean? That you're in control, that you have your hand upon this situation, and that people will put their trust in you. So with that being said, may God bless you all. May he keep you. And please don't forget to go out and change this world in which you live.